Yo, 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 what is up? Rissa here with Culture Fuzz, aka Rissa SoFar. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode of the Culture Fuzz podcast. As you may or may not know, Culture Fuzz is about bridging the gap to people, places, products, and ideas that will make a quality difference in your life. And on this podcast, I like to focus on bridging the gap to conversations because I think the art of conversation has been lost, and just communicating in general, I feel, is going to be really, really, really important to develop and somewhat master in the year 2021. It's such a huge year of change, a huge year of unexpected change. So I'm really hoping and wanting and putting this podcast and this show out there to kind of demonstrate and show you guys what it is to connect with people and empathize, even though what they think may not necessarily align with your own philosophies. Oh, also, if you are watching the YouTube version of the podcast show, you might see that I am in a very makeup, my face is beat. I took Instagram photos today. I got to do it for the content. I still got to market for the show and stuff like that. So I did a Valentine's Day look. So if you guys are interested in seeing what that looks like, you can head on over to my Instagram, Rissa SoFar, or you can check us out, Culture Fuzz, on YouTube, to just kind of see if you want to see what's good. But back to what I was saying, because I have ADHD. No, I don't. I don't know. Anyway. It's really important to me. It's really important for me to connect with people and to kind of get an understanding of why someone thinks the way that they think, what their walk of life was, what they went through for them to develop those philosophies, those ways of thinking. And once we develop that empathy and that willingness to want to understand someone's walk of life, you will be more than surprised at the types of stories and different connections that you can make with people. And I think what makes the human race so beautiful are the very things that make us different. I love the fact that I have such a versatile group of friends that believe in all types of religions, they practice all types of cultures, and yet we can somehow find a way to cohabitate because we don't project or emphasize our own beliefs and philosophies onto those other people. I love the fact that my friends and my close circle and my tribe are so different. And I think once we continue to accept and acknowledge that people are just different, people are not going to consume and understand and look at things the same way that you do. So to get frustrated with someone because they don't see it the way that you do, if you ask them a question and they don't necessarily answer it the way that you like that initial time, you got to take a look at yourself and think okay, how can I say this in a way, or why is it when I say it this way, they don't understand? Taking that extra step to go outside of ourselves to try and do everything we can to connect with that person in that moment. And that's what helps me dramatically with these Culture Fuzz conversations that I have with these phenomenal people who, again, so beyond amazingly humbled, to open up and share their vulnerability so that I can facilitate and demonstrate to you listeners what it's like to have a very constructive conversation. And I think the goal should be connecting with a person and not necessarily judging them or trying to change their mind, but connecting with them and understanding why they are the way that they are. Even people who are extreme. And it's not to say that we're justifying behavior or that I necessarily agree with extreme ways of thinking, like just straight racism, straight bigotry, straight abusers and stuff like that. But taking the time to understand how that person got to that point. This past weekend was Valentine's Day, and shout out to all of the lovers, and the happy couples, as well as y'all who don't have that someone special. I want to just remind everyone that it's not just about who you're with, but it's about how you love yourself and the love that you're giving to yourself. So as much love as you were giving to others, I hope you were showing it threefold to yourself. But on today's episode, I have a very, very special guest. I'm really excited to introduce her. She's such an awesome soul, such a light, and she published her very first book called The Ordinary Life. Her name is Sakile Y. King. She is a self-published author, writer, and all-around just amazing soul. And I invite you to listen to this interview with an open heart and open mind, and to continue the conversation in the comment section. If you're listening to this via podcast, head on over to the YouTube channel, the Culture Fuzz YouTube channel, to the latest episode, and leave your comments, thoughts, and constructive feedback in the comment section, and let's keep the conversation going. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Sakile Y. King.
Sakile, girl, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you. It's good to be here. I'm excited.
Man, I'm so excited. So I was telling my listeners, I love to like network online and like just find like-minded people that's doing really cool shit. And I stumbled across your profile, and you are an author. Like, you are an amazing writer. You are like, yes, girl, I'm gonna say, like, I was reading your book. So before I like dive too deep into it, I would like you to tell the viewers and the listeners a little bit about yourself.
Okay, yes. Well, my name is Sakile. I am an author of the book Ordinary Life. Should I hold it up? Can I hold it up?
Yes, please do. Yes, girl. So if you guys are listening, head on over to the YouTube channel so you can get a visual of the book she's holding up.
Yes. I don't even know what else to say about myself. I'm not
so you're from Dallas, Texas. You've been writing since over here. You wrote your first story when you were 6 years old.
I did. I wrote my first story when I was 6, and I was so excited. I used to be a little artist, and so I was at first drawing all the time. My mom was a painter, and so I'd just sit and watch her paint all the time, and then I would get my little sketch pad, and I'd start sketching, and so I sketched this picture of this little bear going into a forest, and then I wrote like a full-page story with it, and I was 6 years old. So I was so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, I wrote this page-long story. It's amazing. Ran to my grandmother's room, and I'm like, Grammy, read it. Tell me what you think. And she reads the story, and she's like, oh, it's good. And I'm like, okay, can we get it published? And she's like, well, let's come back to that. We need to work on it a little bit. And I'm like, oh, okay.
I love it. Is that when you discovered your love for writing?
I think so. For storytelling in general, I was definitely that kid who would sit back and, like, all my cousins, I'm an only child. So when all my cousins would come over and we would all be chilling, I was definitely the kid who would be telling the stories, having the flashlight under your chin or whatever in the room, and like telling the scary stories or whatever. That was definitely me. I had fun doing it. Yeah.
I love it. Every group has that. Every group has like the storyteller or the one who always has like the adventures and stuff like that. So you are the storyteller of your family. I would love to know more about, so you're the only child. Did you grow up in Dallas, Texas?
I did. Dallas is home. Dallas is definitely home for me. I've been, I was born in Houston, lived in Florida for about, give or take, maybe 3 to 4 years. I don't really remember most of it because I was so young, but lived there for 3 or 4 years, and then I moved, me and my mom moved to Dallas, and we've been here ever since, so I would definitely call Dallas home.
Okay, that's what's up. And your mother's an artist, your grandmother's an English teacher. What who inspired you to write, or where did you get that, like, yeah, I'm gonna write this story, or like who like inspired that in your life?
Probably my mom. My mom is also an actress, so she does like shows and stuff in our theater area in Dallas. And so she's been in musicals and plays and all kinds of stuff. So I used to watch the stories unravel in front of me all the time. I was always I was that kid who would sit in the audience through all the rehearsals and memorize every line and know all the storylines. And I think that's where I really got it from. My mom wanted me to be on stage. She tried to kind of push me she wanted me to be in Lion King, the Broadway show.
Ooh.
And I was just like, no. And I could have been, but I was like,
That's like, I want to write the stories. I don't want to be in the stories.
I want to be behind the scenes. I don't want to be seen. Put me behind the scenes and let people hear my words. I don't need to be out there for it. Yeah.
I feel that. Yeah. And I've got to put a lot of respect on that, especially because I hear, everybody wants to be in the limelight. Everybody wants to be in the spotlight. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I'm always fascinated to know about the people who wrote the stories. Like, whose mind did this come from? So I know we're going to talk about your novel in a minute, but I want to learn a little bit more about, who are your, I guess, writing inspirations. Have you written screenplays yet?
I dabbled in screenplays. Screenplay was definitely because I started out more writing a novel format. That's how I learned how to write, was in the novel format. When I tried to write a screenplay, it's like a completely different world. Like, it's a completely different world. It's the way you're telling the story and you're being more vague with it. But I did get into it a little bit, but I didn't keep to it.
Okay.
I'm definitely more of a novel writer. I talk too much to be a screenplay writer.
Sometimes it's the best storytelling, though. Who are your inspirations? Like, where do you draw your writing personality from, or who has inspired you?
Writing personality. I could say that one of my inspirations, even though she upset me probably a few months ago, this is probably 6 months ago, but one of my writing inspirations is J.K. Rowling. Just because growing up, I remember elementary school, 3rd and 4th grade, watching these Harry Potter books come out year after year after year, and they were just, all of them, best-selling lists, and she was a woman. And at the time, a bestseller for a woman, it was huge. And then, I had all the books, I saw all the movies, and I was just the biggest fan of Harry Potter. And so I would definitely say she's probably one of my greatest inspirations. I tried to adapt my own writing style when I wrote, but definitely as far as the level and the scale of how I want my story to touch people and how far reaching I feel some of my stories will be able to go is definitely how I drew inspiration from J.K. Rowling type deal.
What about her writings just pulled you in, where you're just this is how I want to, this is not saying that you write exactly like her, but you're this is kind of how I want to tell, because I can understand with her writing, she the reason why I feel a lot of people love her stuff is she creates this world that just sucks you in. You just completely get lost in it.
And you're immersed, yep.
And fully immersed,
Totally. And honestly, that's kind of what I want to create too. I want people to be able to get lost in that story and get so engaged in that story that they don't want to put the book down, And with J.K. Rowling, she has this I don't even know how to pin a word on her writing, which is terrible because I'm a writer. But it's very clear, it's very clean, it's very crisp. When I'm reading it, I visually see everything that she's saying in these beautiful tones that she's writing them in, if that makes sense. But it's just kind of, and she tells it in such a different way. But yeah.
For someone who's not fully familiar with her writing, what's an example? Does she use a lot of descriptive words? Does she know how to break down a scene where, down to describing? Because I know with you are very, very descriptive. You do a very, very good job of fully painting the scene down to the material of the do-rag on the main character's head. So it was very much like, damn, I'm like, I'm here on the front porch with her. Like, okay, got it. Like, would you say like that, like, would you say that's kind of like how she writes too? Or what is it about her?
I wouldn't say that she writes like that. She more so is a painter with her words. When she writes,
I love how you put that.
When she writes, it's like, it sounds like I'm on a trip or something, but it's like I'm seeing colors. Like I'm seeing these different visuals of what she's writing, and the way
you're describing it is beautiful, because it's like sometimes there aren't words to describe a feeling. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's the beauty about books. Like, I'm so sorry, I'm gonna sound like a dummy sometimes, but the nonfiction is non-reality.
No, nonfiction is reality.
Is reality.
That's real. Yeah.
Nonfiction. I like nonfiction. I like history. I like science. I like psychology. I like studies and stuff like that. So it's a very rare thing when I do read fiction, and sometimes I let myself get lost. Like, I blew through the whole Twilight series. I don't care. I was a grown ass woman. And I read all of them books.
Series, Lisa. Yes.
And I grew up reading fiction, you know, so I used to like get grounded a lot, and they'd be like, go to your room, and I'd have all of these books where I'd be like, fine, I'm just gonna read.
Absolutely.
And you know, so I grew this love for nonfiction because it helped me escape into another world. And what was your love with fiction? When did you fall in love with it?
I'm looking up at my bookshelf right now. Growing up,
she's like,
I only have 2 of them left, but I had like a shelf full of Goosebumps books when I was like a little bitty kid.
Girl,
yes,
wow,
I had
my heart
filled with Goosebumps books. Those were and then the Fear Street sagas, those 2. So I had all of those books. I read those quite a lot. I always gravitated towards, I don't know if this is, I would say I kind of drew this inspiration from the stories that I read in general, because I wouldn't say that this pins on a specific author, but just kind of like a writing style. There are writers who write stories that don't necessarily have a happy ending, like the happily ever after ending. And those are the stories that they still have a good ending or like a well-rounded ending, but it's not, you know, like, oh,
do you have an example?
He didn't have kids and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
I do. Let me see. This book right here.
So if y'all listening, she pulled down from her literal bookshelf. I love this. It's called Scars.
Yes. Scars by Cheryl Rainfield. Ooh. And it's essentially about, I don't want to give too much away because it's like, it doesn't even give it away in the description. Oh yeah, it does. It does. Well, it's essentially about this girl who is going through a really tough time, and she's been sexually abused before, and she's going to therapy, and she's trying to delve into her subconscious and figure out, you know, because she doesn't know who sexually abused her. She was abused as a kid, and so she's trying to figure out, you know, who did this to me, what happened to me, and she's kind of going through these revelations of finding her own sexuality. She's a teenager, so finding her own sexuality and all these kinds of things, and the story in the end comes together very well, and it's a very beautiful story to me, but it's not necessarily like just the happy-go-lucky rainbows and fairy tale ending type deal. So it's more real life, I guess, because I don't feel like real life is fairy tale happy-go-lucky ending. That's not what it is. You know, like it's ups and then it's downs. That's literally, you know, what life is. We're on this constant track of ups and downs, highs and lows. So I definitely prefer stories like that. Yeah.
Okay, so that leads me into ordinary life.
Yes.
And the take on, because it's definitely, even though it's fiction, it's definitely exactly what you described about Scars. Like, it's off the bat, you're hit with some like real life shit. So like, at first we get introduced to the main character. We get a description of her. She's interacting with the neighborhood. And then we go into her apartment and bam, already like the scene is set. And like, I'm not giving it away. I haven't finished the story, so you can't like, we're not going to give any like spoilers. Okay. Like if y'all want to read, if y'all want to know the story, y'all got to go get the book. Y'all go read it. It was like $5. Yes. The ebook was like $5, y'all. Right? It's like $5. Okay.
And it's actually 50% off the ebook right now when you buy it from the link in my bio on my Instagram, and 30% off of the paperback book when you buy it off of the link on my Instagram when you use the code BLM50. So yeah.
Bam.
Yeah.
So is that going to be for all of February or
for all of February? Yeah, for Black History Month. Yes.
Okay, cool. So if y'all are listening to this in February 2021, go ahead and hit it with the code. But so off the bat, we're hit with real life stuff. Like one of the friends is missing, and you know the other friend isn't able to cope with the situation. So describe to the listeners and the viewers like what ordinary life is about.
Okay. Ordinary life is essentially about predominantly this group of friends and what they're going through during the loss of one of their close friends. One of their close friends is missing, and they're going through this loss of them, all the while dealing with school and, you know, everything that entails as far as the stress, the parties, the drama, love, schoolwork, all of that fun stuff. It's just, it kind of tried to really delve into their lives and what they're going through during this time of what's happening around them type deal, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah. All of my characters, for the most part, are lesbians.
Okay. I got that. I definitely got that. And I wanted to like speak on that dynamic because like for me as a reader, I don't necessarily find myself being drawn to material like that as a cisgender female. You know, I'm like, give me some hetero stories. So being able to, and this is why I appreciate this platform so much and connecting with people like you, because it forces me to come out of myself and out of my comfort zones. Not that like a story like that makes me uncomfortable, but has me reaching for something that I never would have probably reached for on my own. So it was very refreshing to be like, or like to look at it that sense of like, oh shit, like, all right, I can get with this. Let's see what's going on. Like,
that's definitely one of my goals with Ordinary Life, is to kind of branch out to everybody. I want everybody to kind of be able to read this and say, oh, well, I can still relate to this, even though this isn't necessarily who I am. Like, I'm, you know, this isn't me, but I can still relate to what they're going through and what they have going on. And that's honestly one of my biggest goals with the story, is to kind of build connection. That's
awesome.
I built the story off of like familial connection, I would say, if that makes sense.
Familial connection?
Yeah. Yeah.
What does that mean?
All of the friends in the story have this bond. And geez. I don't even know how to elaborate on that. Yeah, scratch that.
No, it's not. So they have a familial connection, and they all have this bond. What's familial connection?
Familial connection is in they consider themselves like, so me, I guess how I would relate to it. I grew up only child, right? So no brothers and sisters, just me.
Yeah.
And honestly, something really funny that I didn't even realize is most of my characters are only children too. I didn't realize it until I wrote the entire story.
Is that familial connection?
But yes, essentially they all they all were just by themselves, you know? And so they came together and they built this sisterhood, this family, this bond. And that's something that I feel Ordinary Life is really centered around, is kind of that bond and how they stay together and how to overcome the obstacles life throws at you as you're going through these growing pains of, you know, they're all in their late teens, early 20s, you're going through these growing pains of really discovering who you are, and I really wanted to hone in on that. So I would say it's definitely a good story for anybody coming of age, anybody trying to figure themselves out type stuff. I definitely feel like it's a good story for that.
Absolutely.
Along with the murder mystery, it gives you a little spice.
I love how she throws it in there. She's like, so it's a coming of age, self-reflection of who you are. Oh yeah, by the way, murder mystery. Like
murder mystery. Yes,
but that's a whole lot. Like that's a very well-rounded approach to a story. You know, like it's you're keeping. First of all, you're writing like the individual personalities, characteristics of each character. And then you're developing and creating the story around each character, like why they are the way that they are, what makes them the way they are, what is their connection to each other, to the story. And then on top of that, you're building the intricacies of a well-rounded murder mystery on top of that. So I'm reading here. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
That's like, that honestly, Rissa, that is something that just freaked me out. It just in the fact of like getting it published, I'm just like, oh my gosh, is that too much? Should I tone it down? Should I just make it about one thing? Like, should it just be the murder mystery and that's it? Or should it be the coming of age and that's it? Or should it just be about one of the characters and that's it? But I'm like, no, it just feels like it all comes together so perfectly. But I literally go through this cycle every day of, are people going to understand the story? Is it going to be too much? Is it going to overload them? Is the story too long? And I'm trying to pull myself out of that, and I try and pull myself into positive thoughts and say people will flow with the story if they flow with the story.
Oh man.
Or if they hear it, we'll hear it.
Absolutely. You hit it right on the head. I mean, girl, the same thing with this platform, you know what I'm saying? It's like I've come to just acknowledge and understand that like my content is going to reach the people that it needs to reach. They're gonna I just put out there, I'm like, I hope this reaches whoever needs to see it or hear it right on time. Like right on freaking time. And whoever is meant to read your book, like it's gonna hit them. And then on top of that, and again, cisgender female over here, so I'm not very well versed with like, you know, LGBTQ plus,
LGBTQ plus,
LGBT
more letters on there.
Thank you. I'm trying. I put cis into my vocabulary last year. Like I'm here for y'all.
Oh,
so like I don't know how, you know, the literature world or publications, or if there's these types of stories, you know, for the LGBTQ community. I'm gonna get it, y'all. I swear to God, I'm gonna get it.
And you know, that's what's funny is that actually in the process of publishing, I was instructed to do some research and find other books like mine. Other books that my book would fit into the category. So essentially I could pick the correct genre fields so that when people were looking for books similar to mine, they would be able to go to it and be like, oh, it's a new book, or whatever the case may be. So I went online and I typed in, okay, lesbian or LGBT books. All of them were mostly about love. Pretty much love stories. So I was okay, maybe I should be a little bit more specific. I'll type in LGBT mystery books. There was nothing. I couldn't find a thing. I was just like, okay. And so now I'm like, okay, well, let me look up maybe murder mystery, because at first, honestly, I wasn't sure if my book was a murder mystery story or if it was a mystery story at all. I was like, I feel like it's more about the friends and kind of how it connects back to this girl who's gone missing type deal. And I don't know. I had a very hard time figuring out the genre.
No, but I love your process. Like, I like the way you're breaking down your process, because I want my listeners and viewers to like listen to this. Like, you already had an idea, like a pretty specific idea what you wanted to write about. You're like, this is my demographic. I want to write to the LGBTQ plus. I wrote it down and I read it. Yes. That's why, like, okay. You're like, I want to target them. So automatically you ask yourself, like, what's already on the market? Like, what are people writing about toward this demographic? So you Googled it, and bam, she's like, hey, it's all love stories. That's great. That's fantastic. They need that as well. But what about some, like, and then you started to ask different questions, which actually kind of might have helped you make the decision of, like, I guess it's just going to be a coming of age and a murder mystery, because I don't see neither. Like,
it was difficult. And that's the other thing is, like, my book is kind of in a section where no other books are sitting. So it's kind of like, incredible. Okay, so how do I get people to gravitate over and, you know, be interested in, okay, and on top of the fact that, you know, it's a Black woman on the cover. I know we could say that doesn't mean anything, but it's still like, that's still a thing.
It means a whole lot. It means a whole lot. Yes, this is representation. Like, this is representation for women. For this is very intersectional. Like, there's a lot of intersections to this accomplishment here. It's towards Black women, LGBTQ community, towards, you know, Black women who maybe come from broken families or don't have that quote unquote, you know, like, there's so many. Go to
college and university and all of that, like, yeah. And that's just, it's a hard demographic to kind of read, because honestly, even when you do all of the numbers and you crunch all of the numbers before, you know, your book goes on sale, you still don't know. You still don't know. And I still haven't gotten my sales back on my books. Like, when you publish a book, you don't get anything back as far as sales wise for 90 plus days, because they get, I don't know what they do, but there's like some process where they want to funnel all the sales from your first section together and determine, like, I guess, how your book did in this period of time or something. I'm not really sure, but it's a 90-day wait period. So I'm just like, okay, I don't know if I'm selling any books. I'll just sit here and wait patiently.
What has the verbal feedback been?
I've gotten feedback mostly from my friends who read my book. I haven't gotten feedback from really, you know, anyone else, but my friends loved it. One of my friends is actually, she's straight, and she read my entire book in a week, and she loved it.
That's
incredible. She said it was great. She was like, I can't wait until the second book comes out. Like, let me know. And I was like, okay, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Another good friend of mine read it, and she basically called me pretty much every other day. Every time she got to a chapter that just blew her mind, she was just like, why did this happen? And why is she? And I'm just like, I'm glad you're liking the book. So that was fun. And, well, I have gotten quite a bit of feedback now that I think about it. I'm saying
I love it. I love it when my questions, like, help self-reflect. It's like, well, because it's like, it's interesting because I fall victim to it so many times where likes, sales, ROIs, you know, like the tangible stuff. I sometimes, if I don't catch myself, I start relying on it, and I'll be like, oh, well, you know, this YouTube video didn't get as many likes, or this didn't get as many likes. But it's the people, it's like the one or two people who are like, your friends who are like, yo, I blew through this book, I can't wait for the next one. And like, for me, it's like, I listened to this podcast episode and it literally, like, I needed to hear this because of A, B, and C. It's like those quality interactions, that quality feedback is just like, all right, this is why I'm doing it. You know, like, this is exactly why I'm doing it. And just, you know, and like fully trusting the process, you know? And like, the thing is, it's like, even if you only made $1 back on your book, girl, like, the accomplishment, like, you've been writing this book for 6 years, since 2014.
Yes, it took me 6 years. 6 years to write. 6 years to write. Yeah. I think about it and it makes me mumble a little bit. 6 years to write it. Yeah.
Girl, like that, like, sometimes it takes people like decades to write a book. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so like, I can only imagine the process. And being a creator, you are putting yourself in the most vulnerable position. You know, like, I don't know if this is this your first body of work that's been published?
Yes.
Has it been terrifying? Is it nerve-wracking? Like, how does it feel?
Every single day. Every single day. But it's like you said, it's just coming back to that place and recognizing I'm putting something quality out there. I have something good, and having faith in that, and that'll carry where it's meant to go, and keep going and keep pushing, and don't stop, and don't let anything hold you back from what you know you want and what you can see in your future type deal. So, yeah.
What are one or two things that you've learned about yourself after? Actually, what's one thing you learned about yourself while writing the book? And then what's one thing you learned about yourself after it was published?
One thing I learned about myself while writing the book. Let me see. And it could be anything.
It can be anything.
Not necessarily something related to my book, but just anything
if the book was the reason why, if it led to the reason why you learned that about yourself, then sure.
Okay. Let me see. Well, so last year, let's go 2019. I was coming to a point where I had finished writing. I finished the entire manuscript, and I went to my cousin and I was like, "Cousin, I finished the whole manuscript. It's done. It's ready to go. All I have to do now is just read through it and check for grammar and stuff." And this is in 2019, December. And I started reading through it like a week before Christmas. And I'm like, oh, okay, it might take me a couple more weeks. Couple more weeks go by. Oh, okay, it might take me another month. Month goes by. Oh, it might take me a couple more. I didn't finish it until May or June. And I would definitely say something that I learned during the writing process is that it is a very arduous and long process that you have to go through and that you have to stay dedicated to. And like that was at a time, where coronavirus was really bad and we were all on complete lockdown and nobody was going out. And so, honestly, it was the perfect time to do it. So I was just in here just writing like day and night, 2:00 in the morning, staring at, my manuscript, scribbling out what I wanted to write. And I was just going in on it. And something that I learned is that it is a long process and that you have to take that time in order to get the story that you want. Don't rush your story to be finished just because you want it to be published. Make sure that it's right. Make sure that it's what you want to put out there and that it has the message that you're trying to deliver. And don't just put anything down and anything out there type deal.
Excellent advice.
Yeah, so that's something that I learned during. Something that I learned after. After it was completely published, like after my release party and the whole deal type thing. Is that what you mean? Like after?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. After you were celebrated, after, all of that.
That I need to stop stressing so much. Literally, it's like you were saying earlier. It's like you were saying earlier. I gotta stop thinking. So I get so deep in my head, and I'm just like, it's not good enough, and like, oh my God, the whole world can see it now, and what if they hate it? And it's just like, all those different thoughts that come to your head. And I'm just like, okay, look, Sakile, you need to meditate. You need to recognize, first of all, you are a talented author. You are a talented writer. Okay? Like, accept that and keep going. This might not be your book that hits the freaking top shelves and New York Times bestseller, but it is the beginning. And recognizing that it is the beginning and holding on to that. And, like in my future, there are literally already in my head 26 plus books that I want to write. From children's books to fantasy books to finishing this series, the Ordinary Life series. There are so many stories that I want to write. So I'm like, this is literally just the first step in the career that I am walking into. And I just have to keep stepping forward and keep taking more steps and keep writing more books and keep getting better. And they tell all writers that we need to read, so keep reading and keep honing in on my craft. So that would definitely be something that I learned after, is just to stay, not necessarily to stay positive, but to self-talk. Because, we talk to ourselves all the time type deal, like have positive inner talk with myself. Don't down myself, you know, like, because that just, it brings down your mood and it affects everybody around you. So, yeah, that would be something that I learned after.
Okay, first of all, I need to sit here and celebrate you for a moment here, because I know what it's like. You know, I've had this platform 5 years, going on 5 years now, so I know what it's like learning how to celebrate yourself. You know what I'm saying? Especially when you grow up in an atmosphere or a culture where you're supposed to put others before yourself, or where your celebrations are downplayed, like, oh, okay, yeah, like whatever. So you have to kind of step into and lean into like, damn, like I did that and I deserve to be celebrated. So I would like to celebrate you for learning how to celebrate yourself, because I know what that's like, and it's not going to be the last one. And I hope you get used to it.
Oh, yeah.
And that's incredible. And like, I always wonder, does art imitate life? Like, is your story, does it kind of mirror a little bit of your life, like the characters? Because I'm reading right here, the original inspiration for Ordinary Life came to me my freshman year of high school. Our homeroom teacher was talking to us about universities, mainly HBCUs, and the story came to me in waves. Talk to me a little bit about that in your homeroom teacher.
Oh, yeah. That's funny. I did really sit back and think about that question you asked such good questions, by the way. Oh, my goodness. I was stumped. I'm just like, oh, my goodness. Like, I really need to sit here and think for a second. But
that's how I designed them. Yep.
But yeah, so ninth grade, I went to what kind of school was that? It was a preparatory school. I went to a prep school my ninth grade year. And so they were like a college prep school. So, you know, every year we went on like whatever, this college trip where we would go and see colleges and they would talk about colleges. And it was me and my friends. We would sit and talk about how we were going to go to college and get rooms together. And, you know, that whole little fantasy in your head about going to college, you know, and how it's going to be. And so that's essentially where the inspiration for writing a story about a college came from. But where the actual story came from, which is weird because almost all of my stories come from this, was a dream. I had a dream one night, and let's see if I can remember what happened in the dream more specifically. Essentially, I was out at a club, and I was with friends, and all of a sudden someone starts screaming. One of my friends is Latina, so she starts going off and like speaking Spanish and snapping her fingers. And the police come and somebody has been murdered, and you know, it's just this, and then I wake up. So, you know, I had that dream, and just that little blip, that little minuscule moment of a dream inspired the whole series of Ordinary. Wow. Yeah. It inspired the whole, like, it's very bizarre. It's because that's probably, like I said, the question that I get asked the most is, like, how did I even come up with the story? Like, how did I write the story? I would definitely say my characters and some of the things that they've been through are definitely based on things I've been through personally, or things that people who are close to me have been through, type deal. So it's definitely, because I wanted it to be relatable. I wanted it to be something that when people read it, they're like, I can feel this story. I can see this happen. And for people who, I guess, don't really know that's another thing. I don't really know if, like, say you can't relate to the story, would you still enjoy the story? Is that like a thing? Do people still enjoy stories in which they can't relate? You know?
Ooh, girl, that's an excellent question. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm very curious about that. And that's like, I guess, a question I've been asking myself this whole time too. Like, who would be picking up this story and enjoying it? Like, who would learn from it? Who would grow from it? Because it might not just be lesbians, you know, it might not just be college students. You know, it might not just be people who are coming of age or figuring themselves out or whatever the case may be. I don't know who it could be. It could be somebody's 50-year-old dad who owns a barbershop. I don't know. Like, it could be anybody's life who could be changed from it or altered from it, or something that they can learn from it. Maybe they read something in here and they recognize something that their daughter was doing or something that their daughter was going through, and they see kind of similar behavior, and they're like, hey, you know, and maybe that gives them an opportunity to sit down and talk and connect type deal. You know, I don't know.
That's huge. That's very intentional.
Yeah.
Like, extremely intentional with your writings. Like, it's not just like, okay, I'm gonna write this like really cool story, here are the characters, like, again. So this is why, so in a way I think like art is imitating life, because I feel like us as human beings are very complicated and we're very layered. Like, people are always just like, we make things complicated. It's like, well, we're very fucking complicated creatures, you know? Like, we're not one-dimensional. Yeah. There's a lot of layers to us. So I think you do a very, very good job in creating those layers throughout the story and with those characters. But not only that, now hearing you talk about this added layer of like, well, my intention behind it is for people of all walks of life to learn something from this.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
And like a huge one where, you know, a 50-year-old father, you know, who might have like a lesbian daughter and doesn't know how to connect with her, and like reads it, like, that is so specific but so powerful, because I can be like, how many heterosexual parents have, you know, gay children, and they're like, I love you, but I have no idea like how to connect with you. Is this what you like? Like, I don't, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, that's incredible to see that you're being very intentional with bridging that gap. Like, that's really, really awesome. And like, for someone like me, like, never would have thought that, like, yeah, I guess we do kind of need to know about these stories and learn, you know, like, yeah.
But like, I guess separate yourself, not necessarily separate yourself from your family, but separate yourself from your family in a way to kind of be comfortable, I guess, in being who you want it to be. Am I right? Yes. So it's like, I guess I feel that I'm kind of still working towards that. You know, I'm still kind of coming, because, you know, I know that I still look for the approval of my mom. Like, she's probably one of the people most of all that I look for approval from type deal, because it was pretty much me and her my whole life. So her like judgment and her criticism means more to me probably than anybody else's will, and she probably doesn't even, you know.
I was gonna ask, and let me know if it's getting too personal. Like, have you ever asked her or told her how much it would mean to you if you read the book?
I don't think I've ever expressed it in a way that was constructive. Ooh. Let me say it like that. Okay. I know that I've expressed it, but it's usually out of frustration, or it's out of, because, you know, she got my book 2 months before it was released. She got a copy of my book. And, you know, she said she was going to read it before it got released, and she never opened it. You know, so it was just kind of the periodic, so have you gotten a chance to read any of it? And it's like, no. And it's just like, but I see you posting on Facebook, and I see you watching new Netflix shows every weekend, and, you know, I'm just like, but you couldn't read one chapter maybe? Like, you know, it's just, so every time I feel like I try to, I guess, confront her about that, it's like it comes out in a non-constructive way, and it's, our relationship is kind of, it's a little busted, and it needs work. And I would definitely say we're better than we were when I was younger, because when I was younger it was awful. Like, it was awful, but it's better now, but it's still difficult. Like, we still have that gap. Like, I hear my friends talk about, you know, like with their moms, how they could just sit and like go to lunch with their moms, you know, and go to dinner or have dinner, or they go on trips with their moms, or they go to, you know, these different venues or concerts or whatever, and do all these things with their parents. And I'm just like, I don't understand, you know, like how some people can't understand my perspective. I'm just like, I
Right.
don't understand how you guys do that with your mom. Like, why? How are you guys so close? Like, that's how I'm looking at it. It's
Girl,
like,
that's
how are
so
you
real.
so close? You know, like I don't
Yeah.
understand it. Um, and I find myself envying it sometimes because I'm like, I've never had that bond,
Yep.
you know, with my mom type deal.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
No, I can completely relate. And again, just I am so thankful for your transparency, because I think this brings up a very, very, very good point of how many people out there, you know, men and women who do not have this. I'm going to describe it as like almost imaginary version of our parents, because it's like same, like even though my parents, you know, provided for me in a way that you would like describe as quote unquote normal,
yeah,
but inside, like in the household, like the actual relationships compared to like my peers, I'm like, we don't have that. We don't have like, we don't talk about our
yeah.
feelings, like we
Life
don't
is different. Yeah,
like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like I can definitely like relate, not fully, but definitely on a level where it's like I don't have that quintessential relationship where I can just go have an extremely normal, candid, unbiased,
yes,
constructive conversation with my parents. Like, unfortunately, I have to put boundaries on our conversations in order for it to stay copacetic. Like,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
just like I can't relate. So it's important, I think, to draw light to that not a lot of people, like, this is a norm for a lot of us. It's like I don't have that like I have a relationship with my parents, like we don't fucking hate each other, like of course I love them, like we would
yeah,
take a bullet for each other, but can we sit there and just have like a regular schmegular
yeah.
conversation? Nah, we can't.
Yeah, it came to a point like when I first moved out of my mom's house. It When I first moved out of my mom's house, I was how old was I? I think I was 19 years old, and I can guarantee you we probably talked once every 3 to 4 months is how often we talked, and it was probably only about maybe coming over for the holidays, or that's pretty much it, honestly. Like we
Yeah.
didn't talk, and you know, so many people, like I worked at a clinic at the time, and my patients, I would tell, you know, I'm a very open person, so you know my patients would know these same things, and they're like, what, like you only talk to your mom how much? And they're like telling me how much they talk to their mom, like, yeah, I talk to my mom every day, or yeah, I talk to my mom every day on this day of the week, like I have to talk to her. And I'm just like, you have to talk? I can't stand talking I'm like, oh, I can't talk to her for more than an hour.
And it's
Fucking
real. Yep.
agitated. Like,
Yep.
and so
Yep.
you know, it's very interesting to me just to hear from different perspectives and see those different relationships, and just kind of, I guess, recognize how it can be better. You know, how can we make this a healthy bond? And I kind of vibe off of those friends who I know, you know, some people have healthy relationships with their mom, some people don't have healthy
Yeah.
relationships with their mom. But like for the people who have those like healthy bonds where, you know, you could talk to your mom about your relationship problems, which I feel like is the deep one. Being able to talk to your parents about your relationship problems. Me personally, I feel like that's a deep one. Um, but when you're at that point, I find myself just kind of listening and kind of paying attention to that kind of relationship, because it's something that I'm not familiar with. It's something
Right.
that I don't understand. It's something that I don't recognize. And it's something that I want to learn from, and something that I feel can maybe help me grow type
Yeah.
deal. So I pay close attention to like those friends who have those relationships, because obviously, you know, that's something that I want to grow towards.
You
And
have an amazing way of staying open while observant. Like, even though, because a lot of people can take that trauma and see something like that and automatically get triggered and be like, well, I don't understand that, and like fully reject it. And you're
yeah,
just like, damn, like there's a whole other world here. Like, how does this work? Like, I want
yeah,
to learn how to do this. And what's amazing about that is that you're doing the work on yourself so that eventually you'll be able to take what you've learned and take it back to your mom and work on that relationship. Because like one thing that I've been able to do, like, again, my mother is like, she's how can I say this? She has a flair for the dramatics. And
okay.
And a lot of the conversations will always somehow be geared back towards God. And I'm just like, not everything is biblical, you know? Sometimes I just want to just shoot the shit. So yeah, that's why there's a lot of limitations on our conversations. But what I have noticed is that, you know, working on myself, working on healing myself, and developing my truth and discovering more about my story, I've been able to take these tools back to her and help her with some of her own blocks and her own obstacles, to the point where I see her becoming softer and more receptive, to where we're able to have really healthy conversations about our feelings. And she's like second generation Latina and I'm half Latina, and all we did was yell the first 16 years of my life. Ooh. Was just yelling. I thought that was normal.
Has Latina in her, because that's kind of like, oh, geez Louise, girl, I can feel it, man.
Like that was just our communication style. She doesn't remember it. I was like, we never remember it the same, but I'm like, yeah, like it was just a lot. So I had a lot of trauma around communication, people telling me what to do. Like even in my relationship, like something like anything that my partner would ask me, it would automatically, I would rebel, like, because I'm like, you can't tell me what to do, you're not my parent, like automatically. So I had some healing to do. So once I was able to heal that, once I was able to, you know, put those boundaries and limitations on the conversations, I was able to recognize in her what the issues were with me. And I'd be like, okay, I know exactly what you're feeling. I know exactly what you're going through. Let me help you through it. Like it helped me. Like I had to like work on my communication style. I had to work on like incorporating vocabulary that I knew wasn't going to trigger her. Like it was just very much like human psychology, communication, like all of that fascinates me. Like the human, like the English language, like it fascinates me because there's always a way to communicate to someone. It doesn't matter. You as a writer, I know you know that. It's been interesting. And I still know, like to this day, there's still probably going to be a limitation on the relationship I have with my mom.
Yeah.
But I'll take the little steps. Like I'll take the little wins, you know, like I'll keep working on that. And you know, now she's talking about like emotional maturity and healing our relationship. If I was like, okay, girl, go off. Look at you. You know? So it's very much like I commend you for recognizing that and developing the awareness for yourself and knowing what you want. You know?
It took so much. I feel like it took forever. And I'm 26. Almost 27, so I feel like
I was like 30 when I came to that awareness. So you were like light years ahead. Like, God, I wish I had that self-awareness at 26. Jesus.
But it's like you were saying, it's like how you said you saw your mom start to soften. It's like probably the other day, I was helping my mom make a video for one of her friends who lives in New York. It was his birthday. He was turning 60 years old or something. And they're all theater friends. So they're very, very dramatic.
Yeah.
So, you know, you have to sing a song and record the video and tell a story. And it was all these different steps. And my mom barely knows how to work the tripod. So I'm coming in there and I'm helping her. And I'm like, okay, so we're going to record this. So we're going to do it like this. And, you know, she kept asking me, she was like, well, what do you think? Do you think it's good? And all these different things. And something that I've recognized in my mom is that, and something I've adapted from her is that seeking self-validation, constantly seeking self-validation, but in such a way that you don't want to ask for it directly, but you become passive aggressive in wanting that validation, if that makes sense. You passively aggressively ask for that validation. And that's something that I've kind of picked up from my mom, but it's something that I saw the other day is she kept asking me if it was okay. And I was like, Mom, It was great. Okay, you're an amazing singer. This was beautiful. It was amazing. Would you like to do it again? We can do it again, you know?
Yeah.
And I could see, like, just kind of like the softness in her, like, kind of like what you, I don't even know how to put another word to it, another description to it, but it was just like a moment where I was actually just paying attention to her body language and the way that she reacted to what I was saying to her. And I could see that, I don't know, but I could see that she heard me, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I could see that she heard what I was saying, or I could see that she felt what I was saying, which is not a common thing around here. It's almost like how you said you and your mom would yell. It's like we would be yelling at the top of our lungs, but nobody would hear the other person. Mm-hmm. Like, it would just be screaming. And girl, like, I'm surprised nobody ever called the police or anybody.
Same. Oh my God, same.
Oh my God. Like, it was, you would think like a domestic disturbance was happening over here.
Yes.
It got ridiculous. I mean, and we had 2 dogs. So the dogs were barking. We're going off and screaming and yelling.
You already know the neighbors was like, it's not my business. It's not my business.
That's exactly what it is. The black neighborhood, they said, oh no. Let's turn the TV up a little bit. But yeah, it was insane. And just honestly, like recently, probably over the past couple of years, getting past that point of just being like firing off at each other and being able to be in the same and just talk. We're so much alike, which is why I think it's so difficult for us to communicate, because we communicate in the exact same way, as opposed to like trying to balance each other out. We both have this passive aggressive, which I really want to get past, because I hate that I'm passive aggressive, because sometimes it's unintentional, you know, like I'll do passive aggressive shit and it's completely unintentional, but it's like in me. It's just like a part of who I am. And I'm like, I don't want to be this passive aggressive person, you guys. But yeah. So just, I guess, getting past that and me getting over, I feel, my, I guess, generational curses is what you could call it. Me kind of getting past what, I guess, the negative pieces that she kind of passed along to me, and showing her that we can get past this. Yes. You know, it's like I realized that my mom, she grew up in a generation, you know, my mom's Black, so she grew up in a generation where discrimination was still pretty heavy, while it was still, you know, like, I guess segregation wasn't still a thing as big as it was when she was a kid, as when my grandmother was a kid, but it was still like a thing. Like people still like frowned on Black people and stuff. So like, honestly, understanding that psychology of her being a Black woman, you know, all she wanted to do was be an actress, trying to break into the acting world and having all of these, you know, like, you know, she went to school pretty much with we're in Dallas, so she went to a theater school with pretty much all white people, and trying to break through that mold and be, you know, just honestly trying to fathom what she went through is helping me to connect more to her. Because I feel like as a kid, I didn't really think about that. You know, I feel like as a kid, you don't register these different things, right?
No, I just remember just being like, you mean? Why are you so mean?
Exactly. It's just like, and you know, it's like, as I get older, it's like, I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense. Like, oh, well, this is why this held her back. Yes. Because of what she looks like. You know, my mom has dreadlocks. You know, she's Black. You know, it's just like, it's because of her appearance that held her back. First of all, mentally, like, actually held her back, but you can't say that no Black woman ever made it type shit in what they wanted to do and what they were going for. But mentally, when you keep getting knocked down because of your skin color or because of how you wear your hair and these different things, I feel like on my mom, it broke her. You know, it broke her a little bit. And so,
especially trying to be an actress as a Black woman back then, I can only imagine.
Yes. And I'm just like, you know, and so I'm recognizing these different things and seeing these different things that she went through. And I'm just like, okay, and I'm trying to learn. I guess it's like you said, trying to find the vocabulary in which to talk to her, the tone, the appropriate way to approach the conversation with her, type deal. You know, like just finding those different things. And like you said, it takes time, but taking that time and working on that relationship and growing it, that's that's probably one of, I would say, definitely my ultimate goals this year is to work on that.
Sounds like you are incredibly on the right track. It sounds like you have developed and are currently developing the self-awareness in yourself to recognize, like, I don't want to be passive aggressive. I don't want to continue the toxic behaviors that she passed on to me. Like, I recognize them and I recognize them in myself, because that is the first step to self-healing. It's like, first and foremost, I don't want to be that. Like, as much as I love her, I don't want to be that. And then as we begin to heal ourselves, we begin to recognize their trauma. And it's like, oh, you're like this because your father did this, or you experienced this, or as a Latin woman growing up in America, you experienced. So as the middle child, you didn't get all this attention. So now you've got like this narcissistic thing. Like, it's like, I get it now. So now I'm not over here like it's a lost cause. It's like, I empathize with her.
It's almost mind-blowing to me just to kind of like, it's very similar to, my reaction to these things are very similar to, because let me just say this. My reaction to these things are very similar to when, you know, as a kid, how you listen to all these different songs and you're like singing all the lyrics and all these, and then you get older, you listen to the song again and you're like, oh shit, that's what I'm singing about. Like,
exactly.
About lollipop? Oh no. Oh no. So it's just, it's like literally that kind of like, whoa, like kind of like almost like a mindfuck kind of moment where I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, wow, like that, because
you're a whole ass person and I didn't even
exactly, like, whoa, like I didn't even know that this was you. Like, I feel like I see more behind the curtain. I feel like I see more of the person she is in recognizing those things, and see more of the person I am in recognizing those things, type deal, you know, and what makes me the way I am.
And I think as if we continue to show them that we hold ourselves accountable, we continue to show them that we're creating a safe space for them, because that's something that's foreign, you know, amongst us. Like, it's we're not used to creating safe spaces for each other. Like, it's always like we're coming at each other. So it took a while to be like my sister had to verbally say, like, I don't feel emotionally safe. And my mom was like, oh shit, that's not good. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I told her, I was like, dang, Sam, I'm taking that emotion. I love that. Like,
yes, like, wow. Whoa.
But it like totally resonated. And that's like a huge thing now. Like, I even use with my boyfriend. Like, it's like, we met 8 years ago. We were really young. You know, it was like sexually based. Like, we didn't fuck like emotions. Like, what the fuck? And only recently, because we've been doing the self-work, I had that conversation of like, us creating an emotionally safe space for each other. We never did that, but this is something that I want to do now. And we're both like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? But
absolutely,
two people got to be on the path to self-healing. But I think once people see the work that you're doing on yourself, they either receive it or reject it. And it's up to us to decide what to do with that, you know? But the hardest thing is if it's family that rejects it, and it's like
dealing with that rejection. Yeah,
man, that's the one that hurts. But that's the one, like, what is more important, my peace or the facade?
That is the truth. I'm just, you know, it's, man. I just, you know. It's like you said, it's just, I really want to come into who I am, and I'm hoping that over time, me and my mom can build a better relationship, but it's like, a part of me is also like kind of scared.
Yeah, that's understandable.
we won't get there. Like what if we never build that connection? What if it's always kind of just this hidden animosity in conversations that we have, or it always escalates for no reason and we just start arguing? Like, what if it's always like that? And that's probably like, that's a very scary thing for me, and I definitely don't want to go through it. And when I have kids, I don't want them to have to go through that.
Right.
Or it's that type deal. So I'm just like, that is something that I need to better myself on, you know, like now, like, and work on now. And, you know.
And you're doing it. You're doing the
Girl,
damn thing. And you're doing it with grace. And you're doing it with flair. You're doing it with transparency, which is not fucking easy. But like I said, like, people respond to that shit. They do. And don't ever stop. Don't ever stop working on yourself. Keep practicing. Keep, you know, finding ways to talk to her. And like, that's the thing. It's like, one thing that I'm not going to do is give up. You know, like, it's like, if there's always a chance, if there's always a window, if there's always a way to try and connect, I'm gonna go for it. You know, like, that's what makes successful relationships. It's like, as long as there's two people trying, you know, like, I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna build. And like, and as long as you have that self-awareness and that ability to stick to your truth, like, you're gonna win, and you're gonna help so many people in the interim.
And it's like, it's crazy, like, you're saying these things, and it's just like, this is what you need to do, and that's just it, you know. And
this ain't no coincidence.
Like, it's so hard though.
This ain't no coincidence, honey. I tell people all the time, I'm like, there's a reason why you're on this show. There is a reason why you're having this conversation, because like, with every fiber in my being, like, I know my platform is going to be big. So yes, anybody that I
completely agree.
Thank you. Like, and anybody that is on my show, I'm like, this is not a coincidence. Like, you are now a part of this much larger thing, and you are a part of a collection of stories and experiences that is going to bridge the gap to other people, that is going to help them with their stories and their experiences, because it's tribe. Like, I emphasize tribe because that's what this is. Like, I'm building tribe. Like, you are now tribe. Like, people listening to this, watching this, like, Sakile tribe. You can go hit her up now. Like, it's very much, and that's exactly what I'm trying to build with this. So like, on that note, are you gonna say so? Go ahead.
I was gonna say, girl, I was just bragging about you earlier to my cousin. I was like, yeah, girl, and her podcast go off. Like, one day she's going to be interviewing a celebrity. I was bragging, just going on and on. You know, she don't even listen to podcasts. And I'm just bragging and just going, and I'm just like, girl, you need to listen to it. Like, you need to listen to her podcast.
Oh, man, I received that. I wholeheartedly receive that. I appreciate that. And I know it, and that's why, like, I do what I do. I'm so intentional with what I do because of people like you. Like, it's like telling your story or telling stories that is going to touch you. Like, shit, sitting here, you talking about your mom, like, I'm like, yo, I can't even, like, how grateful I fucking am to get people to a point where you feel emotionally safe enough to share such an intimate part of yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
you have an ease about you. It lets people open up. I said you have an ease about you, like I don't know, it's like an aura of I don't even know how to describe it. It's
emotionally safe. That's gonna be the theme. Emotionally safe. That's just the theme. Like, I was telling, it's like, I don't know what it is. Like, my dad has it, my grandmother has it, but like, ever since I was younger, it didn't matter who it was, I would just be like, hey, how you doing? And all of a sudden I know about their divorce. I know about like the side family that this one dude had. Like, all of a sudden I'm just like, I don't understand. My dad's like, it's like the Witcher curse, man. Like, I don't know, like, happens to me, happens to your grandma. And I flipped it. I was like, well, these are some interesting ass stories, man. Like, I don't know.
That is awesome. That is awesome. It's like...
Also, I fully receive that, and I'm just very, very grateful that I've been able to manifest it into something that is able to contribute and like give back. So, man, thank you for being on the show. Thank you so much for Ordinary Life. Sakile, please let my followers, my listeners know where they can find you.
Yes, you can find me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is syk.the mermaid, and the is spelled with 2 E's. Facebook is my name, Sakile Y King. And those are the only 2 platforms I have because Twitter honestly scares me a little bit.
Understandable. I'm just not like, I just got into Twitter heavy like last year. Like, yeah. It took some getting used to.
Yeah, I played with it for like a year and I was addicted to it. I was addicted to it like how people get addicted to TikTok. And you know how TikTok is. You get on TikTok and you can't stop scrolling.
No, it's bad. It's up till 3 a.m. Like, go to sleep, person. There's some talented, funny ass people in there.
Absolutely.
Where can they find you? Where can they purchase your book?
My book is available on Amazon, iBooks, Barnes and Nobles. It's also available on the publisher's website, which is bookbaby.com. Just look up Ordinary Life. And yes, I am. That's where my book is available. Ebooks and paperback. Yes.
Everyone go cop that, please. All right, y'all. That is it for today's episode. Everyone, please go show Sakile some love. You already know where you could find me, Rissa SoFar, on all social media platforms. Same thing with Culture Fuzz. That's it for today, y'all. I will see y'all next week. Bye. Mwah.